It's been 10 years since the initial announcement of the first iPhone, and we have been taking a nostalgic look back here at Tech Porn at all the years of the iPhone and going through its entire history. If you haven't seen part 1 of this 2-part series, be sure to click in the card above me or in this corner as I did last video. So whichever one it is, I really don't know anymore. But in this video, we will be taking a look at the iPhone 5 and all the way to the future. So without further ado, let's hit it. The iPhone 5 would be released in 2012, sporting a fresh new metallic design that took a lot of design cues from the iPhone 4 line. The phone housed a bigger and better 4-inch display instead of the 3.5-inch display that was in the last 5 generations. It had a wonky resolution of 1136 by 640, but still featured a pixel density of 326, advertised as the Apple Retina display. And if you haven't seen a video where we talk about display resolutions and what's actually practical in a display, bam, right here in the card above me, you can go check out this video. The iPhone 5 featured the redesigned dual-core A6 chip clocked at 1.3 GHz and finally, in an Apple device, a full gigabyte of RAM. The cameras remain the same from the iPhone 4S, but with better low-light performance, faster image capturing, and a sapphire crystal lens at the back of the phone to prevent damage to the lens. The headphone jack that still existed at this time got moved to the bottom of the phone alongside... Wait. What the f*** is that?
Given the dimensions of the new phone and all the capability that we wanted to add, we needed to manage space inside the phone very carefully. We've created the new, much smaller Lightning connector. It's all digital, so it's designed for today's uses. And we made it reversible, so it fits either way.
Wait, you can't just take away ports like that. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this f***ing works. You can't just take away ports. What am I gonna do with my docks, my speakers, my cables, all this shit?
Well, we're creating a bunch of accessories to help you with that. This is a 30-pin to Lightning adapter, and it works just like you'd expect. You can plug your 30-pin cable into it and it into your iPhone 5.
Wait, so I have to use an adapter now? I have to use an adapter to use all of my existing accessories that I've already spent a couple $100s on. Really? An adapter? Thanks, Apple. Fucking bullshit. I should not need an adapter to use my device. I shouldn't need to buy a separate adapter in order to fully use my new device. Boy, does that sound familiar. The iPhone 5 also shipped with iOS 6, which was the newest update to the iOS software, which featured things like Passbook, which was the precursor to the current Apple Pay, as well as Apple Maps, which made it even easier to get lost than ever before. In all seriousness though, iOS 6 cost a couple Apple executives their jobs, including Scott Forstall, who is the head iOS developer, and iOS was basically his baby up until this point. Now, despite some minor changes in iOS's history, a lot of users up until this point had been complaining that it had grown very stale. Scott Forstall was a huge proponent of the skeuomorph design, where iOS had a lot of elements that emulated real physical objects, and Steve Jobs absolutely loved this design. But with Forstall gone and Steve Jobs out of the picture, head designer Sir Johnny Ive was left with iOS, and he gave it the facelift that everyone wanted.
True simplicity is derived from so much more than just the absence of clutter and ornamentation. It's about bringing order to complexity. iOS 7 is a clear representation of these goals.
iOS 7 marked the first major redesign change since iOS's inception, and it featured a brand new minimalist design, revamped menus, and even a control center to control things like Wi-Fi, AirPlay mode, and Bluetooth. But it wouldn't be one phone that came with it at launch per se.
The business has become so large that this year we're going to replace the iPhone 5. And we're going to replace it with not one, but 2 new designs.
And the first one is called iPhone 5C.
iPhone would be released as the budget-oriented iPhone, sporting the exact same internals as the iPhone 5 that it replaced, but with a brand new flashy design. The 5C design almost brings everything back to the iPhone 3G and 3GS days with a plastic shell around the entire back, but the real star of the show wouldn't be the 5C, it would be this phone right here.
The second is called iPhone 5S. The 5S is the most forward-thinking phone we've ever created.
The iPhone 5S would be powered by the brand new Apple A7 chip, which was clocked at 1.3 GHz and was backed by 1 GB of RAM. It was also the first iPhone to feature the new M7 coprocessor, which was a strict processor for sensing motion. It featured basically the same design as the iPhone before, but with a brand new home button that allowed for the 5S's key feature, Touch ID. It allowed for fingerprints to be read at the lock screen to unlock the phone and make purchases within the App Store and iTunes Store. The iPhone 5S also featured a revamped camera system, capturing 8 megapixels with the ability to shoot slow-motion video, and the front-facing camera able to shoot 720p high-resolution video. Now, despite the fact that Apple had been making a lot of updates to the iPhone line over the years, a lot of people were arguing that it was falling in the shadow of its competitors, and I do mean literally falling in the shadow of its competitors. Phones at this time were becoming massive. I mean, take a look at the Galaxy S5 here at 5.1 inches on its display, the HTC One M8 at 5 inches, and the Galaxy Note 3 at over 9,000! So many consumers were arguing that the iPhone was definitely due for a display size upgrade. So, enter these two.
Dun 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 dun.
The iPhone 6 line pushed Apple into new screen size territory, with the iPhone 6 sporting a 4.7-inch display and the iPhone 6 Plus with a monstrous 5.5-inch display. Both displays were still advertised as being Retina displays, but while the iPhone 6 featured the exact same display density as previous iPhones at 326 pixels per inch, the brand new iPhone 6 Plus model featured a higher density at 401 pixels per inch. The design of the iPhone 6 featured far more curves and more malleable aluminum than any iPhone before it, allowing for soft gestures within iOS's user interface. The power button was also moved from the top of the phone to the side of the phone, allowing for better one-handed usability. Now, because these screens were so much larger, Apple wanted to make sure that any user, regardless of hand size, could handle these new iPhones. Lord knows Donald Trump could handle these phones, ladies and gentlemen. And by double tapping the touch-sensitive home button, they created a gesture that moved the top half of the screen to the bottom of the iPhone, allowing for easier access to the top parts of the display. Powering these brand new devices was the new Apple A8 chip, which was dual-core and was clocked at 1.4 GHz and backed by 1 GB of RAM. And the motion coprocessor also received a facelift, moving from the M7 to the M8, which allowed for better motion capturing as well as the measurement of altitude, as it had a barometer built into the sensor. But the cameras didn't really get that much of an upgrade, as the iPhone 6 still featured the exact same camera system that was put in the iPhone 5S. And the iPhone 6 Plus also had a similar sensor, but there were a couple tricks packed into its big-ass sleeve. The iPhone 6 Plus packed in optical image stabilization, allowing for the optics of the camera system to move in an effort to compensate for shaky hand movement when taking pictures and video. To no surprise, Apple delivered an iterative update to the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus models, releasing the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus the next year. The iPhone 6S was a mere internal upgrade to the phone that was released a year previous and featured a sturdier aluminum construction because, you know, #Bengate. It featured the A9 processor clocked at 1.85 GHz and for the first time, 2 freaking gigabytes of that good RAM stuffs. Alongside the A9 processor, the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus also had the new M9 motion coprocessor and a crazy new display that featured this technology known as 3D Touch. The displays in the 6S and 6S Plus were able to recognize varying amounts of pressure, allowing for more ways to interact with iOS's user interface. Now, in the beginning, 3D Touch was kind of marked as a gimmick by a lot of people, but thanks to this thing the kids are calling iOS 10, is f***ing everywhere. Like, it's unavoidable. You can't get around it. And naturally, with the release of iOS 10, there have to be some new phones that ship with it right away. And this would be the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus.
Courage.
The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are the current Apple flagships and feature some crazy
Courage.
The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus feature a brand new redesigned quad-core A10 Fusion processor clocked at 2.34 gigahertz, with 2 cores being designed for high-intensive performance and the other cores being for low-intensive performance, alongside the brand new M10 Motion coprocessor.
Courage.
A crazy new home button also made its way into the iPhone 7s that senses pressure and is static in location, different from every other physical button in a phone ever.
Courage.
There was also a new Taptic engine allowing for better haptic feedback within the user interface.
Courage.
Stereo speakers, where the earpiece acts as a front-facing speaker in conjunction with the bottom-facing speaker.
Courage.
IP67 water and dust resistance, allowing for the phone to handle spills and dunks in water.
Oh, courage.
Except though there are a lot of similarities between the 7 and 7 Plus models, the similarities end there. Well, except for, you know, one small little detail of a 3.5mm friend that, you know, has kind of been around for half a century. Courage! The iPhone 7 features a revamped 12 megapixel camera and 2 gigabytes of RAM to fuel the processor, but the iPhone 7 Plus features a whopping 3 gigabytes of RAM and a radical new camera system that features 2 lenses. One lens is designed for wide-angle images, and the other acts as a telephoto lens for optical zoom. This allows for the camera to zoom in using the physical optics and produce a sharp zoomed-in image, rather than the software digitally cropping the image and producing a zoomed-in image.
Courage.
Though, a lot would argue that these features came at a far too high cost, a cost that was too much for anyone to handle, and that was the omittance of the lovely headphone jack. A lot of people are speculating why this actually happened. You know, Apple says it was in order to make room for other devices within the phone, like the Taptic engine, the new camera system, the new speakers, the water resistance, whatever. But I mean, you know, let's be honest, who else is gonna buy $160 toothbrushes hanging out of their ears?
Dude, it's just courage! Clearly, just courage! You know what they put in there instead? Courage, the cowardly dog!
Oh, courage.
Now, a lot of people are freaking out about this, but honestly, let's set the record straight. Apple has a track record for doing these kind of things. I mean, you know, have any of y'all heard of floppy disks, compact disks, SD card readers, Ethernet, FireWire? This isn't the first time that Apple has ditched an I/O connector. So, I mean, are a lot of people surprised by this? I mean, I sure wasn't, and, you know, I've been supporting an iPhone 7 Plus for a couple weeks now, and I haven't really missed the headphone jack, except, you know, for when I went to record this video and I needed to plug in my mic to a 3.5mm headphone jack. But Apple ships an adapter within the box, though it costs $9 if you lose it. Or you can invest in Bluetooth, Apple AirPods, and they also have Beats available in this crazy pairing. And courage! That right there. So ladies and gentlemen, have you been missing your headphone jack in your 7 Plus or iPhone 7? Leave a comment down below. We'd love to see how you all are acting in response to this crazy I/O change. If you have any other comments you'd like to put down below, that's what the comment section is there for, so be sure to give us some sort of feedback. We'd love to hear from it. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see videos like this, be sure to click that subscribe button down below. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Use hashtag courage on Twitter.
Hashtag courage.
Hashtag courage.